Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia, and welcome to the next episode in the Michael Audiobook series. Now, where we last left off, we are now introduced to Lord Xathanael, the Dragon King of the British Isles. And he's now learned of Barjan's identity, or rather his existence. So without further ado, let's dive right into Chapter 8. The Sword Song. At the village, Ambrose and the others return with the much-needed supplies and begin distributing them to the locals. "Thank you, Ambrose, for this kind gesture. Many years of good health to you," said one villager. Ambrose smiles. "You are my flock. A shepherd must tend to his community." While everyone converses amongst themselves, Barjan is elsewhere. He sneaks back into his room when they enter the village. He meditates on what has happened and remembers Beth's words. He still hears her cackling, taunting him from the grave. Just then a familiar voice fills the room. "It's time to end this, don't you think?" asks the shadow. Barjan opens his eyes and sees a dark figure kneeling before him. Barjan recognizes who this is. "Beth is gone, and with it the truth of who we are. There's no need to run anymore," he said. "You naive fool. Sooner or later more will figure it out, and more dangerous enemies will hunt us. Tell me, Barjan, how long can you keep this up?" yelled the shadow. "It always seems bad at first, but then I find a way. All you need is faith and trust." Suddenly the shadow grows angry and lashes out at him. "Faith? Trust? You sound like that damn abbot. Look around us. We have no home. There is nothing to fight for. There's no more honor. Come to think of it, the only honorable thing to do is—" "Shut up," yelled Barjan. The shadow twitches and towers over the former angel. "No, I won't spend eternity in this forsaken time," screamed the shadow. "What do you want from me?" asked Barjan. "I want it to end. Aren't you tired? Wouldn't it be great to be free of all this worry?" "It could be over if you commit the final act of honor," said the shadow. "Be gone!" exclaimed Barjan. Swiping his hand, he destroys the shadow's astral form and is again left alone in his room. Getting off the floor, he lays on his bed for a moment. As he rests, he thinks about Hellfire. He wonders if he can still access its power. He refuses to unsheathe the holy weapon for so long, yet curiosity gets the better of him. Leaving his bed, he goes to retrieve the chest. Opening the lid, he grabs the handle of the sword. Tightening his grip, he attempts to unsheathe the weapon when he hears a knock on his door. Turning his head, he gets up from the floor, sword in hand, and opens the door. Waiting at the door is Ambrose. "Ambrose, what are you doing here?" Barjan asked. "I heard you were talking to yourself again." "I think it's time we had a private chat," said Ambrose. "A confession, then?" stated Barjan. "More or less," replied the abbot. Getting to the confessionals, Barjan is nervous about what to say. When he was an angel, he would watch and listen to all the confessions made by mortals. Now it is his turn. As a side corridor opens between them, Barjan sees Ambrose behind the mesh. Making the sign of the cross, Barjan begins reciting, "Forgive me, abbot, for I have sinned." "A lot," said Barjan. "When was your last confession?" asked Ambrose. "A very, very long time ago," said Barjan. "And what is your confession?" Barjan's mouth is empty. He had many things to say, but no words escaped him. His heart raced in his chest, and his breathing became erratic. Grabbing his left arm, he struggles to get himself under control before speaking. "Abbot, I did a terrible thing." Well, that's an understatement. What I did was... it was unforgivable. At the time, I thought I was doing the right thing to prevent further harm to others. Instead, I brought harm to my home. It cost me my friends, my family, myself. And some days I think about horrible things and have almost acted on them. "Abbot, I'm scared." Ambrose is silent, but listens with intent. The Barjan does not explicitly say what he did. Ambrose understands what he's referring to. "Normally I would give you a prayer to read and offer some comforting words from the Bible, but then again I'm not a real abbot, and this is no ordinary confession." He paused for a moment. "You're not the only one who has had thoughts like those. When I was still a soldier in the Irish army, I felt lost when the end of the world happened. I believed that nothing would change, and on that day I wanted to end my life. put a rifle in my mouth and almost pulled the trigger. What stops you? Asked Barjan. At the moment, I realized that I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the trigger. In doing so, I discovered my purpose again. I was a soldier, and soldiers serve and protect the people. From that moment on, I made it my mission to do just that. So I offer these words to you, my friend. The decisions we make and the actions that follow reflect who we are. We cannot hide from ourselves. Does that make sense? This makes sense to the former angel, and Barjan feels comforted by the words of Ambrose. Just as they were about to finish the service, they heard commotion coming outside the church. It sounded like screams. What is that? Asked Ambrose. It seems to be coming from outside, replied Barjan. Exiting the pews, Ambrose and Barjan ran out of the church and see what is happening. Once outside, they find the whole village aflame, with most people in chains or dead. Surrounding the church are men belonging to the Ember Council, necromages, berserkers, and worst of all, Draconian ravagers. Ambrose reaches for his pistol under his robes, while Barjan places a hand on his sword. As the two walk toward the invaders, Barjan notices one of the ravagers has captured Margaret and has a sword placed to her neck. The sight causes him to tense up. Before either man can react, Ambrose sees Cullum and Fiona in chains, as prisoners by the berserkers. It is just them now. They are alone, and their enemies slowly begin to close around them. Suddenly, one of the ravagers raises a hand, ordering the others to stop. As they do so, he approaches Barjan and studies him. Barjan has an uneasy feeling coursing through him. As the ravager finishes his inspection, he speaks to the former angel. So, you're the Nephilim. Honestly, I don't see it. Here I thought I would be meeting a warrior angel, a famed fighter of the Watchers. Instead, I find a broken man clutching onto a forgotten relic. Do you even know how to use that? My faith is my weapon, replied Barjan. The ravager laughs. And tell me, how is your faith, Watcher? Barjan does not respond. He scans all around him. He sees the village burning, people dead on the floor or captured, and then the sight of his friends. He locks eyes with Margaret, who silently tells him not to do it. However, just as Ambrose said, we cannot hide from ourselves. Ambrose, stay behind me and kill any that get past me, he said. Ambrose does not understand, but nods regardless. Then, grabbing the handle, he unsheathes Hellfire with a sharp ping, which echoes throughout the village. The piercing sound leaves an intense irritation on everyone. He points his sword directly at the Ravager in a fighting stance. Why don't you step a little closer, and I'll show you, replied Barjan. Kill him, barked the Ravager. Suddenly, necromages, berserkers, ravagers, and many more attack the former angel. Grabbing the sword tightly, he battles against his enemies. Though rusty and has not wielded a sword in many years, the movements come naturally to him. However, even with his dormant powers, he is still mortal and cannot afford to be careless, unlike last time. As he fights, Ambrose deals with the stragglers, firing off shots with marksman precision. On the sidelines, Cullum and Fiona are speechless at what they witness, but Margaret knows all too well. After all, she was just a child when she saw the angels fight last. Barjan hacks and slashes against anyone and everyone who comes toward him. The former angel does receive his fair share of injuries as one berserker cuts him across the back, tearing his shirt off and exposing his back tattoos. However, he blocks out the pain and continues fighting. The ground is soon sprayed red with blood and dusty bones as the two men deal with the last of their foes, the lone Ravager. The Ravager, panting hard, glares at the former Watcher. So, you're not as weak as I had originally thought. And you're no mere Watcher, you're something more. By your tattoos, you're an archangel. But which one? The Ravager ponders for a moment until he reaches his answer. Yes, now I remember. Your name is The Ravager stops his sentence as he chokes on his tongue. Looking down, he sees the blade pierce through his armor like butter and cutting his spine in twain. The Ravager tries to speak, but only gets out a low gurgle. As the Ravager slips off his blade, Barjan believes his troubles are over. Sadly, he is wrong, for through the Ravager's eyes, someone else was watching. Back on the English coast, Xathanael witnesses the entire scene unfold. Now having proof, he summons one of his mages to prepare the Palantir. He has someone to meet. Chapter 9. The Hunter's Moon. In a distant part of the world, deep in the bowels of hell, a cloaked figure sits in silence. He is dressed in all gray, and his only outline in the room is his wings. All around him is darkness, and to him darkness is truth and life. As he enjoys his silence, a lesser demon ruins the tranquility. "What have I told you about disturbing me during my meditations?" the figure asked, hiding his growl. The demon bows before replying, "Pardon the intrusion, your wickedness, but you have been summoned to the chamber. Lord Zarakoth has requested your presence on urgent business." The figure slowly gets up and walks out of the room, letting out a deep breath. As he makes his way to the chambers, all around him he sees the fires of hell's industry. Factories are producing powerful weapons that are more dangerous than the last. After the Watchers defeat, the armies of darkness turn their sights to other parts of the world, dominating the other ancient ones. Their policy is simple: submit or suffer. Many join their ranks, while the few in hiding choose to continue the fight. Arriving at the chamber, he pushes open the door and is greeted by an astral projection of Zarakoth. The figure bows before the Dragon King. "Good fortunes to you, King of the Isles," he said. "As to you, old friend, I have something that might interest you," said the dragon. The hooded man chuckles under his breath. "Zarakoth, there is nothing you could have that I would want." Just then, Zarakoth utters a name. "Not even Michael?" Suddenly the figure's expression changes, and he stares widely at him. "What?" he replied. Zarakoth shows his friend the images captured by his fallen ravager, showing Michael still alive. "My sources tell me he lives in a village under the guise of a scribe named Barjan. A Nephilim name, no? I trust you have sensed his presence. After all, you too have unfinished business." It is quite a surprise to hear of a Watcher still alive during these times, even more a former archangel. He smiles underneath his hood and thanks his ally for sharing the news. Zarakoth pays his respect with that, and the image slowly fades away. Turning to a mirror, he removes his sorcerer cloak and stares at his reflection. Black, greasy hair, neatly coiffed, revealed a skinny, menacing face, with clear brown eyes sitting graciously within their sockets. He lets out a huff and changes into his advisor garbs. With this new intel, the figure quickly leaves the chambers and marches towards the throne room. Taking the same walkway and descending several flights of stairs, he arrives at the throne room, pushing the stone doors. He enters the imposing room. As he walks inside, he marvels at the interior architecture. All around him, barbaric braziers encompassing each of the 14 travertine columns light up most of the throne hall and cover the entrance in warm oranges and dancing shadows. The intricate and symmetrical design patterns of the embossed ceiling dance in the flickering light. Simultaneously, carved demonic images and sculptures look down upon the limestone floor of this grand hall. A carmine rug runs in circle around the room, with two paths at the throne and the main entrance, while wolf-head banners with emblazoned tapestries drop from the walls. Between each flag hangs a little luster. None but a few had been lit, and in turn illuminate the artistic depictions of famous battles won by the army of darkness below them. Gothic stained glass windows of mesmerizing mosaics are shrouded by drapiers colored the same carmine as the banners. As he walks closer to the end of the room, he stands before the throne of hell. It sits in front of a large window radiating dark sunlight. It is adorned by two equally imposing seats for the king, queen, and the royal prince. The throne is covered in Byzantine designs, and a red diamond lion's head is fixed on each relatively slim foot. The bulky pillows are a light carmine adorned with ornate ridges. As he approaches, he stops and bows before his sovereign, the king and queen of hell. "Your Majesty," he said aloud, "sitting on the imperial throne is Lucifer Brightstar, master of evil and the one true king of hell." He is a man with short brown hair, neatly trimmed, revealing a chiseled, time-worn face. Big round black eyes sit elegantly within their sockets. He's average amongst others despite his skinny frame, though it's a mistake to underestimate him. In his previous life, he was the youngest of the Watchers and worked hard to fight alongside the ranks of Metatron, Azael, Abaddon, and even Azrael. However, that changed when he fell in love with the demoness Lilith. and was exiled from the Watchers. He and his wife had to survive in a bitter world all alone, but they found allies and reshaped hell into a formidable power. I trust your training went well, my lord, asked Xathanael. Unlike the other dukes of hell, Lucifer is a soldier and constantly trains his body and mind. Therefore, he is always wearing his armor. His battle armor differs from most fallen angels. The soldiers are squared and short and decorated with a metal dragon wing on each side. Vambraces cover the lower arms with a metal snake curling around them. His breastplate is made from one large piece of metal, but crafted to mimic the muscle's appearance. It covers the entire front and backside, but the attachment strap exposes sides under the arms. Resting against his throne are his large raven-black wings, a testament to his total conversion to darkness. It went as expected. The soldiers are getting better, but not good enough. They still fall at my hand, he said aloud. Twirling in his hand is his go-to weapon, a revolver. Guns were the weapons angels refused to have, as they were man's creations. However, once Lucifer rebelled, he incorporated man's technology into his own. But this is no ordinary firearm. This large revolver is relatively lightweight and packs a big punch with excellent accuracy thanks to its design. The bullet fires vary. Some kill demons, some kill angels. It has an expensive metal grip with decorations made of ivory and a standard barrel with Gothic etchings. Because of its destructive power, he called it Blackout, a fitting name. Smiling, Xathanael turns his attention to the queen. My lady, have the new servants assisted the young master? He asked. The servants are adequate, for witches they serve their purpose. However, I had to remind them not to joke about my son's appearance, she said with venom. Sitting next to Lucifer is a woman of tremendous power and respect. Lilith Brightstar, mother of monsters, and the wife. Contrary to her depictions in literature by humans, Lilith has white, perfectly groomed hair that awkwardly hangs over a chiseled, lively face. Clear red eyes sit wickedly within their sockets. Several yellow gems are spread charmingly across her forehead, and while stories have exaggerated her height, she's average amongst others despite her rigid frame. And unlike her husband, Lilith dresses as a royal woman would. Her noble dress flows from top to bottom and has a sweetheart neckline. The comfortable button of fabric of her dress, made from the finest weavers from Greece, covers her stomach, where the continuously flow is broken by a small rope belt worn relatively around her waist. With this in mind, it's hard to picture Lilith as anything else but royal. However, it didn't always start that way. She was born to a large demon family in a significant community where she lived happily and secretly on Earth. However, she lost her family and almost everyone during the Great Purges. That was when she met Lucifer. Together, they carved out their kingdom, one that challenged the might of heaven and its forces. Since that meeting, the two have been inseparable. With the pleasantries finished, it was business, as usual. What news do you bring? Asked the Lord of Hell. The Grand Advisor rises and removes his hood before addressing his lord. My king, I bring troubling news. Xathaanael, our ally ruling the English Isles, has reported that an angel is living in a town in Ireland, says Xathanael. What concerns this to us? What can one lone angel do to our authority? Asked Lilith. My queen, this is no mere angel. This is the former Watcher, the former angel of war himself, Archangel Michael, to be precise, replied Xathanael. The name Michael catches Lucifer's attention. He knew of a young angel by that very name, but that was a different time when he once served as a Watcher. What is it you propose? Asked Lucifer. With your permission, I would like to deal with this matter personally before it becomes problematic. I will send out one of my aid. No, said Lucifer. Xathanael stares at him as if he did not hear correctly. My lord? Xathanael asked. No, let him be. He is not a concern to us. He poses no threat to us, said Lucifer. Xathanael is shocked by his lord's reply. How can he be so careless? Perhaps you didn't hear me. This is Michael, one of the council's top warriors of his day. If he is allowed to persist, he will grow to become a threat to us all. Xathanael, I will not start a problem unnecessarily. If this former angel does become an issue, we will deal with him. But at the moment, he is nothing. Leave him be. That is my final order. Xathanael thrust a finger at his king. Your negligence will be our downfall, he yelled. How dare you insult your king, shouted Lilith. Do not forget to put the crown on both your childish heads. he seethed. Suddenly there is a loud boom that echoes throughout the room. Xathanael touches his cheek and feels a small scratch. He sees blood on his fingertips and realizes that Lucifer fired off a shot from his revolver at point-blank range. The King of Hell slowly gets up from his throne and towers over his teacher. We haven't forgotten, and my judgment is still the same. Leave the Watcher alone. Understood? Xathanael glares and bows before his king. He then turns around and leaves the throne room to return to his meditation chambers. Taking a seat back down on his throne, Lucifer huffs. Lilith comforts her husband. There's one in every family, she said to him. What will I do with him? He asked her. Oh, come on, we both know he should have been expelled from hell long ago, she stated. Xathanael did help Lucifer and Lilith seize the crown of hell. However, in recent years, the fallen angel has been growing bolder with his demands. Lilith does not like this. Lucifer pets his wife's hand. This is his home. As long as I am king, that will never change, he said to her. This then caused a chuckle from Lilith. Though you have a demon's heart, you still have an angel's soul. You never change. Still, now that he is gone, I think someone here would like to see you, she said with a smile. Looking down in his wife's lap, Lucifer sees his pride and joy. His son, named Samuel, he has both his parents' features, but in truth he resembles his father in one form and his mother in the other. Moving around, the tiny baby opens his eyes and smiles widely upon seeing his father. Lucifer smiles and kisses his wife on the cheek. You always know how to cheer me up. That boy is a fool not to take this opportunity, spat Xathanael. He is still irritated by the king's refusal. Sadly, he has to obey. Then along the way, an idea pops in his head. Xathanael detours to the Hunters Guild, home to the army's most experienced hunters and assassins. Opening the door, he is greeted by a lone hunter, a Rakshas man-eater. These hunters hail from the Indian subcontinent and are mighty warriors, expert magicians and illusionists. As shape-changers, they can assume different physical forms. As illusionists, they can create real appearances for those who believe in them or fail to dispel them. Some of the Rakshasas are said to be man-eaters, make their gleeful appearances when they slaughter on the battlefield. Occasionally, they serve as rank-and-file soldiers in one or another warlord's service. However, some reach even higher when serving the Army of Darkness in other cases. Case in point, this man-eater in particular. Greetings, Javurmas, says Xathanael. Like most of his kind, Javurmas can take many forms of any creature, but in this case he chose his natural form, an anthropomorphic tiger. His mouth is full of razor-sharp teeth, with two fangs protruding from the top of his mouth, and has sharp, claw-like fingernails. An insatiable man-eater, he can smell the scent of human flesh from every corner of the world. Now his sole job was working as a hunter for the king. Greetings, Xathanael. How may I serve the great advisor? He asked. I have a job that requires your talents. A job that must never leave this room. Are you up to it? The man-eater nods his head, and Xathanael smiles. There is an enemy of the realm that needs to be dealt with extreme prejudice. His name is Michael, but he goes by the name of Barjan. He's a Nephilim like me, thus do not underestimate him. Here is his picture. Vortimas studied the image given to him. Purring with excitement, he asked the Grand Advisor when to leave. Now, says Xathanael. And with that, viewers and listeners, we will conclude here. So now we've officially been introduced to Lucifer, Lilith, and Xathanael. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all in the next video. And if you want to buy a copy of Michael, I will link it down below in the description of this video, or you can go to my bio on YouTube and go from there. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.